Hello there, annyeonghaseyo. First, I want to say thank you. I am honored to be here. My name is Traci Fisher, and I am an executive wellness coach. Steve reached out to me just a few months ago, and he and his team have worked diligently behind the scenes to make this happen. He and the KDVA team clearly care about you, and I am honored to be here. Thank you, Steve, for having me, and also Erlene for your support and your kindness. And thank you all for being here as well. This is a very special month for KDVA as it was founded in May of 2017 as a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting the U.S. and the South Korean Alliance and our veterans. So during KDVA's anniversary month, it is wonderful to see how they have grown as a connector in both South Korea and the United States to bring the alliance together. And obviously, they care deeply about their people. So I thank them for the opportunity to share my thoughts about professional and personal well-being. So I know that your time is valuable, and my goal is to make sure that this time together is extremely valuable for you. So the title to this talk is, let me share my screen. Is sharing a 3D perspective. And as you will see, this has multiple meanings, and the focus and my passion is to help shift the old way of thinking about wellness and what we should be doing, and to figure out what is true for us to take the best possible care of ourselves. And so I call this perspective, this 3D perspective, Wellbeingness, which is basically a model that I have created to help people organize their own wellness and well-being, and to create a frame that is right for them in any particular point in their lives. And you will have the opportunity today to create your own customized plan. And I will walk you through this model, and you can apply it to your life today. So I call it the X-tier model, and it is the main tool that I use while I am coaching clients, and it is the tool that I ask clients to use in order to coach themselves. And by the way, it is the same tool that I use in my own life to coach myself. So the main part of our time together will be explaining that model, and simultaneously you creating your own model or your action plan. And so I also want to say thank you very much for filling out the survey ahead of time. It was extremely helpful, and we are going to use those results as well as we move through this. And then finally, I would like for us to have some fun. This is an opportunity to connect with one another, and I invite you to use the Q&A to write in questions. And we have Mr. Kim here as an interpreter, and I'm delighted to have him here so we can have questions in English and also in Korean. So this is an interactive presentation, and so I would like for you to take out a blank sheet of paper. And at the top of the page, I would like for you to write the word well-beingness. And this is a word that I basically made up, and it combines wellness and well-being together. Wellness plus well-being equals well-beingness. So I want you to keep that in mind as we move through this. And I would like to just start off by sharing a little context, a little bit of my background, to help you understand and frame your well-beingness. So the start of my professional background began in the military. I graduated from the United States Military Academy and was commissioned as an aviation officer. So I am all about systems and organizations and structure and science and following rules. And after I left the military, I spent quite a bit of time at my own church and was studying to become a minister. But then things shifted a little bit for me. And I decided that I wanted to support people in a different way. So I started my own fitness company. And since then, I have created 2 health companies and have studied what I call wellness extensively. So I studied many different modalities from golf fitness to corrective exercise science, and I designed a very specific process basically around functional movement and performance goals to help people achieve maximum physical health, right? Or what I call wellness. So I want you to think about wellness as your physical organism taking care of your body. And so we trained executives and we trained coaches and we trained trainers and we trained them in this particular process, and it was extremely successful, and I used it as the foundation in several works, and I still use this process today. And so basically, this is a traditional process that you are probably familiar with, and it looks like this. Somebody is in their current situation. I call that their X, as in X marks the spot. And here are 2 gentlemen in their current situation. And then we give them a customized program that's based in science and their specific history and what their needs are. And so that is an action plan. That's what the A stands for. And then they would follow it and they would achieve their results. So there are examples right there of somebody achieving their results. And so I call this the XAR process. Just do it. It works. We are all familiar in the military. This is how the military acts, right? And it is, here's the situation, X marks the spot. Here are the results that we want, and so here is your action plan. And it works. But it doesn't work for everybody. And I became intrigued, very intrigued, because I wanted to know how people who were hardworking, focused, and dedicated in some areas of their lives were just not able to achieve or sustain their health goals. And so, for example, I'd like to share with you Mary. And this is Mary, and she is an example of the type of executives that we would work with. And she was a C-suite executive who worked extremely long hours, and she had 2 kids and traveled quite a bit. She traveled internationally, as a matter of fact. And her particular result, or the goal that she was looking for, was to change her clothing size from a size 14 to a size 8. So of course we put her on a customized program, and the focus of this program was her movement and her exercise and her fitness. So she would get up at 5:30 a.m. 5 days a week when she was in town, and I would meet her, and she would work extremely hard in the gym. And she was, and as a matter of fact, she still is, one of the strongest people that I know. And being strong is not the same as losing body fat. She was strong, she had a strong heart, she had bigger muscles, but she was not getting down in body size to a size 8. And she was not alone. If you look at this blue line right here, you can see that almost 54% of Americans meet the United States government aerobic exercise recommendations. And so that is 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of more intense, vigorous exercise. But across the years, from 1995 up to 2020, the obesity rates are steadily climbing. And what is happening here is that people are exercising, but they are not losing body fat. And that's exactly what happened to Mary. So what we did is we said, okay, let's also focus in on your diet. And so we reduced her sugar intake to less than 20 grams per day. And so she followed the plan. She cut out processed foods. She reduced her sugar intake, and voila, ta-da! She achieved her result, and the weight started to fall off. She got to her size 8. Now, by the way, I will tell you that reducing sugar is the number one health tool that creates success for my clients, whether they are trying to reduce their body size and lose weight, or increase their energy, or feel better in general, including being able to focus. So getting off of sugar and processed foods is the easiest, fastest, and simplest way, in my opinion, to begin creating a healthier body and mind. And it isn't easy. And it wasn't easy for Mary either, because within a couple of months, she was gaining her body fat back again. And the reason she was gaining it back this time was because she wasn't following the fuel or the food protocol. We'd figured out the right action plan. We knew exactly what was going to work for her, but she wasn't doing it. And truthfully, she's not alone, right? This is the crux of the issue for many of us. And this statistic is from 2018. This is the Global Wellness Institute reports that we were spending, again, in 2018, $4.2 trillion, right? And it's grown up into 2020. It grew 13% from that. So people are trying, and they certainly are buying, but globally, it's not working. And why isn't it working? Well, that's the question, right? And there's a lot of research on that and a lot of people trying to figure that out. And I will admit to you that I was trying to figure it out as well. So I will tell you that I was at the peak of my fitness. I had a fitness DVD and I was over drinking red wine in the evening. And yes, that is candy corn. I was eating a lot of junk in the evening and I looked healthy. I was physically fit, but I was not holistically healthy. And so I looked the part, I had the healthy body, but I was not happy. And I personally wanted to know how I could have healthy and happy. And so that's why I went back to school and studied cognitive behavior change and how the brain and the mind work. And as I practiced this on myself and basically integrated questions and techniques with other people, I started to see more patterns and connections. So I created another framework and a process that integrates both the body, the wellness aspect, and the mind, the well-being aspect. And so I want to share that with you and practice using it. So I am an executive wellness coach and I help people achieve optimal mental and emotional and physical health, energy, and performance. So this word, well-beingness, as I said earlier, is wellness and well-being. So for some leaders, the results that they are looking for is health, right? To get off blood pressure medication, to manage their weight, to reverse diabetes, which we can do, to manage pain, or to just have more physical energy at the end of the day, right? So again, this wellness piece is about our physical organisms. And then the well-being piece, other leaders really want to have a healthier brain or want to cultivate some calm or reduce stress and to stay calm perhaps in the middle of a negotiation or in the middle of even a family crisis. And so that is the definition of well-beingness. So it could be about mental agility, memory, focus, problem solving, and it could also be about your physical health. So underneath on your piece of paper, I would like for you to write down the acronym XTEAR and to leave some space in between, because each one of these letters stands for this process and steps to designing your well-beingness. And one of the things I want to interject here is that this simple process is simple. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is easy. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. And for our purposes today, I am going to truncate each one of these steps and speak specifically to the results that you all indicated on your survey. Now, the survey was fairly generic, right? It is the kind of the first step to get you thinking about what it is that you really want. And an important part of this result piece is ensuring that it is actually connected to your vision. And so I'm just going to take a moment here to say that a vision is literally a vision. It is something that you imagine your life to be like, and it's literally like a movie in your head. So it could be walking on the beach or playing with your grandchildren, speaking in front of a crowd and feeling confident, buying a new car or a new home for yourself. So your vision is linked to how you want to live your life and who you want to be. And here's the key. A vision actually generates an emotion in you. It creates love or compassion or excitement or joy. And so your results, your specific results, are the state of your mind and of your body that allows you to live that vision. And so you all filled out the survey and basically answered this question, what do you want? And here are the results. At first glance, the top answer of what most of you wanted was improving your physical health. So that's about a quarter of you. And so again, this includes weight and blood pressure, getting off of medication, reducing pain. And we're going to talk about how to do that. And as I go through each of these, I'd like for you to think about exactly what it is that you want. So improving your physical health is too generic. I have people say to me, I would like to just be more fit or more healthy. That's too generic. A result that I'm going to ask you to write on your piece of paper is specific. I want to weigh 180 pounds. I want to get off of blood pressure medication by the end of the year. I want to reduce my resting heart rate. So begin thinking about, if this is most important to you, what your result will be. And then there was a tie right there between energy levels and other entries. And so energy levels could be physical energy, could also be mental or emotional. So some of you mentioned in those other entries, not having energy left at the end of the day. I saw that several times. To make your smart choices, that you felt like you didn't have any fuel left at the end of the day. And in the other category, that 17% right there, almost all of your comments had to do with staying on task, the ability to stay focused when emails or when other tasks pop up. So I added those together, the focus and then the mental focus right there. And when you look at that, that's 34%. A third of you are interested in the ability to focus and concentrate and stay on task. And that is what I call mind management. So if that is you, if you answered one of those, then for your result, you might say something specifically like, I want to get through all of my emails in the morning within 30 minutes. Or I want to follow my to-do list in order 100% of the time. So again, I want you to think about exactly what your result would look like and to decide that now. And then finally, 15% of you said that you wanted more emotional intelligence. So this is the ability to remain calm in the midst of chaos, the ability to generate good emotions, the emotions that you most want to feel. And then right here, 12% of you said that you wanted to focus in on work-life balance. And so generally, when we want work-life balance, it's so that we can feel good emotions, reduce stress, spend more time with our family, and experience joy with them. So I grouped those two together. And so there is basically, when you add all of those up, right there, globally, when we look at this, 60% of you are really focused on well-being, that mental and emotional health, energy, and performance. And even, and it's actually even a little more of you because these energy levels right here, some of that is mental and emotional as well. And then a quarter of you wanted to focus on physical health. So the good news is that the approach that we are using, this well-beingness approach, no matter what your specific result is, the wellness and well-being are connected, and we are always using both of them. This 3D perspective is about focusing on physical action and also simultaneously using your brain, your central nervous system, on purpose to sustain your physical change and to also change mentally and to also use your emotions on purpose. And that all in of itself is different than the traditional just focusing in on the action piece. So today we are going to focus on both in a general sense. So what I would like for you to do on your sheet is to write your specific result. And if you would like, you can drop your results in the Q&A. And I would like to point out here that some results are subjective. So on a subjective type of result, I would like for you to use a scale from 1 to 10. So for example, if you have a current stress level that you'll have to guess is at a 10, think about what you would like for your stress level to be. It could just be an 8, or it could be, I'd like to bring it down to a 3. So you are going to write that very specific result right now, make a decision in the R line. And then X marks the spot. That is your current experience. And so in the X line, you're going to write your current stress level. In my example here, I have my current X, my current weight is 230 pounds. The result is to weigh 195 pounds. And so the question becomes, how do you close the gap? And this is what can feel overwhelming because there is a lot of information. There are a lot of techniques out there on how to increase your physical energy, how to lose weight, how to reduce your stress levels, increase your sports performance, right? There's a lot of information. When I Google wellness, there's over 4 billion results. So I don't want you to use that as an excuse to not create an action plan, because choosing the right action is important, and it can be physical, mental, or emotional. And here's the thing. The chances are that you, because you are the expert of your body, that you already know what it is that you should be doing, because you are the expert of you. And many times we use confusion or overwhelm about what we should be doing as a reason to not do anything. So I ask you today to pick, as we go through this wellness organization, to pick one particular action plan. So as we go through this, I want you to think about actions that you can take in terms of how you fuel, rest, or move your body, and also your mind, right? So this is all about an energy exchange. So how we fuel ourselves is basically how we create energy in our bodies and our minds. And then how we rest is, you can think about potential energy. We're creating potential energy. And then movement, of course, is how you expend energy. And so no matter what your particular goal is, I ask you always to come up with a fuel, a rest, and a movement. Every single thing that you can think of is going to fall into one of those categories. And it's extremely important to make sure that you are hitting all of those energy sources. So I'm going to give you my recommendations, some best practices for this time period that we all find ourselves in. And then I'm going to share with you what other people have created on their own to basically bring home the point that you are the expert of you. So for the fuel piece, my best practice is to ask you, as I said with Mary, to just eliminate the junk, right? To cut out processed flours and sugars. And then for the rest piece, during this particular time, I know that 10 hours of sleep is quite a bit. But what I have been hearing from a lot of people is that they are waking up in the middle of the night, either thinking about stressful events or just waking up haphazardly. So my recommendation is that you try to get at a minimum 8 hours of sleep. And I know that that's very generic, but because of the time that we are in right now, sleep is extremely important. It is absolutely an indicator of our hormones, our ability to fight off disease, to feel good physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so definitely focus in on sleep. The other point I wanted to make for the sleeping piece is that many people are sleeping a lot. And they're like, is that okay? Absolutely, it is okay, especially if we are feeling stressed during the day. And then finally, this movement piece is I've asked people to move the backside of their body day. And this is why, because all of us are spending time hunched over on our computers or on our phones. And what happens here is that our upper body is tight and the back side of our body is loose. If you think about that, I'm tight here and this is loose. So the way that we counteract the way that we are sitting is to literally contract our back. To literally, you can do it now if you want, to contract your back muscles. Literally, to contract them. And so that's counteracting this front part. So that is a recommendation that I have as well. And I wanted to show you these other 3 personal protocols. This person right here they were over drinking in the evening. And so for their protocol, for their fuel protocol to start off with, they just wanted to reduce their alcohol from a full bottle of wine to just 2 drinks per night. And I share that with you because you will not find that written out somewhere in terms of this is what you should be doing. But this person knew that that was their right next action. And for this particular person, they decided that they were going to recite the 23rd Psalm when they wake up in the middle of the night, instead of worrying about not being asleep, to just go right into the Psalm. And this for this person had multiple benefits. It's so that they could not worry and create more cortisol and more stress, and also so that they could practice their particular religion. Might as well use the best of the time. And then for the movement piece, this is an easy one. I have a stand-up desk here, so I can stand up when I'm on Zoom calls or when I'm on the phone. And so that's just an example. And out of all of these, I want you to think about one particular action for you and to write it in your A line for your action. One action, to just make a decision and choose your one action. And I will ask you to take that action for a minimum of 2 weeks. And we give it 2 weeks because we want to see if it actually works before we start changing. And if you aren't sure what your action should be, I invite you to go to this page, and there is a copy of a checklist. Now, I called it a checklist, but it's really 32 pages, right? And it goes into a little bit more detail, but at the very back of the page, there are simple protocols that you can follow. I ask you to choose one. So you can download this checklist, and it will be at thewellness.coach/KDVA. So what we have just gone through is fairly basic. This is the XAR cycle that I told you about with Mary. And you have to have a protocol. You have to have an action plan. And this is how most of the wellness world works. You need action to change the energy, and that is only part of the story. When we only focus on the XAR cycle, then we are missing an immense and important piece. So, has anyone ever said that they were going to do something about their weight or their blood pressure or their work-life balance and then not followed through? Right? How about getting your house organized, or working on a relationship, or finishing a project in steps instead of doing it at the very last minute, right? We all have said that we were going to do something and then not followed through. And you all self-reported that your average follow through on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 3. You said that way less than a third of the time that you followed through on what you're going to do. So that is no surprise, because most of us say that we are going to do something and then don't follow through. And interestingly, 8% of the population actually follow through on, at least in the United States, on their New Year's resolutions. And the question is, why is that, right? What happens in that moment when it is time to follow through? What happens is that we have thoughts and we have emotions. And that's what that T and the E stand for. And this X-tier model shows us exactly how our brains work when it comes to following through, right? And most of us were never taught this part of the equation. And this is the part that we have to use to practice in our thoughts and our emotions to make our actions become habits, no matter what those actions are. It could be cleaning out the garage. It could be saying no to a donut. In order to do that consistently, we have to focus in on our thoughts and our emotions. And this model represents the way that we do things. And right before action comes emotion. So we are all familiar with the military saying, emotions, we don't care about your emotions, right? You have a mission to do. You need to get the mission done. We don't care what you feel like or what your emotions are. Just grin and bear it and get it done. Now, sometimes that works, right? Sometimes we grin and bear it and we just do our next right thing. And if we find ourselves cycling through the same challenge, the same work-life balance challenge, the same level of stresses, then we have to pay attention to this very important piece, energy. Because if we just focus on the action piece, it's like holding a ball underneath the water, right? And holding it down, and that only lasts for a certain amount of time because it takes mental energy to hold it down. So as you look at your action piece that you have written down, I want you to think about what emotion you would need to continually follow through in the moment when it is time to take your action. And you can put that in the Q&A or even in the chat box if you'd like, right? So some examples of the emotion that we need to create are determined, are excited, or focused. So think about, for you, what is your emotion that you need to feel in your body in order to take your right action again and again and again? And then I want to ask you, do you know what that emotion actually even feels like in your body? What is the physical sensation of your emotion? What does committed actually feel like for you? So for me, when I feel committed, it feels like solid in my solar plexus, right? It reminds me of when I was younger and I was playing soccer and I would see the ball and my focus was on that ball. I wasn't worried about anyone else getting the ball. It was just I focused in with a strong, committed determination. And I always played my best. I always did my best when I had that feeling in my body. So take a moment and write down, what is your emotion, right? What is the emotion that you need to follow through on your action? And now here is the biggest question of all, and that is, now that you know what that emotion is, how do you create it? And here's a hint. It's totally free. It comes from the most amazing tool in the world, and you have access to it all of the time. It's your brain to create thoughts. And this is one of the most important lessons that I have ever learned. And that is that your emotions come from your thoughts. They don't come from the external circumstances. So I'm going to say that again. That's a big one. Your emotions come from your thoughts. They do not come from external circumstances. Emotions don't come from deadlines. Emotions don't come from tight schedules. Emotions don't come from late airplanes or politicians or children or spouses or the weather. Your emotions come from you. So your thoughts create your emotions. So I want you to know that there's a difference between an emotion and a feeling. So a feeling is a physical sensation that you have in your body. I have an itch on my hand, and so I scratch it. That's a feeling, right? An emotion is also a feeling that I have in my body, but it doesn't just appear. It's not a chemical reaction. It appears from our thoughts. And most of us are not aware of that cycle. We are not aware that when we are trying to create consistent actions, that we have to tell the rest of the story, that we have to manage our thoughts and our emotions and our actions simultaneously. And that is how we close the gap consistently. Your ability to manage your thoughts and your emotions are the key in consistent follow through. Not figuring out what food you need to eat or what order you need to do something in, or should I do cardio before strength, or should I follow keto, or any of that. It is your thoughts and your emotions that distinguish your leadership essence and your leadership presence, both personally, as you are leading yourself, as you are designing your wellness and designing your well-being, and also professionally. And this is extremely important because your experience of life, the way that you feel fulfilled, has to do not just with your actions, but with how you feel about this. And this is really important for executives and for leaders because so many of us have the XAR part down pat. We know the face to put on, we know the right action to take, but we don't know how to also simultaneously feel calm, reduce our own cortisol levels, and not just pretend like we have it together, but to really have it together. So for you, you should now have your well-beingness protocol. And this is what I call, as you are going through this, personal training for your brain. And there are some nuances to this. And so I want to take you through this one step at a time. If your current X is your situation. In this example, it is that you weigh 230 pounds. That's your current X. Your result is you want to weigh 195 pounds. And so the process that you use is you design your action plan, and then you also design your thoughts and your emotions. You design all of it so that when you come to the moment in time, when it is time for you to cut out your processed sugar, that you know, wait, I'm gonna think I really want this, that you're gonna replace that thought with, I've done much harder things than this. I've done much harder things than this. I've done much harder things than this. And you literally have the ability to use that thought to create commitment to follow through on your action. So, in conclusion here, the wellness piece here is the action. That's you taking your right action. And I invite you to put that action on your calendar and to track it for the next 2 weeks. If you want to change your action, then the rule is you have to change it 24 hours in advance. And that way we know that you are changing it because of your prefrontal cortex and your planning, and not changing it because you really want some sugar. And then I want you to track whether or not you are following through on your action plan. And your action can be about cutting out processed sugar. Your action can also be putting down your cell phone when you're talking to somebody in your family. It can be anything that you want it to be. And then you also have to practice the well-being piece. Because if you're not following through on your action, you still have to be aware of your thoughts and your emotions. Even if you are following through on your action, I still want you to be aware of your thoughts and your emotions. Because what can end up happening here is that we are doing our right action, but we are doing it from a place to, I have to, or a place that feels really hard, like I'm doing this because I have to do it. And the goal isn't to use force and beat your cravings or go against yourself to hold on tight until you can make it through. The goal is to be the kind of person who doesn't have to fight against themselves, right? That you aren't even tempted by the things that aren't good for you. And that means paying attention to your well-being and to actively designing your thoughts and your emotions with your actions at the same time. And when you do that simultaneously, that is you practicing well-beingness. That is you literally creating your well-being, your well-beingness. And the really fantastic news is that when you learn how to manage your own body and manage your own mind, when you learn how to design and create your emotions on purpose, and even though we didn't go through it today, when you let emotions run their course, then you are absolutely in that moment living on purpose, and you are thriving instead of surviving, and you are constantly challenging yourself to grow into the next best version of yourself. And even if you don't follow through on your action, when you are paying attention to your thoughts and your emotions, you are in the practice of self-leadership. You are in the practice of praxis, Praxis. That means that you are integrating what is most important to you into your actions. And that, of course, takes practice. And that is what happens when we go through what I call the 3D methodology. And I just took you through a very quick version of it where you discovered what you wanted, you discovered your X and your result, you designed your thoughts and your emotions and your actions, and now it is your opportunity to dare practicing. who you want to be. And when you do this, this is the exact process that I use with clients so that they don't just change their behavior, but also transform their minds, right? So this is the key takeaway here, is that when you take the word well, it is in English to live life exceptionally well. And when you define what that is for you and you live exceptionally well, you define where you currently are, and then you decide the ideal state, the ness that you want to be, the state of your mental, emotional, and physical health, energy, performance. And then you define your ing, your ing, your action, what specific actions you will take to achieve that result. And then you design who you're going to be in order to take those actions. And of course, when you put all of that together, you have well-beingness. And that is all that you need to remember. Well-beingness and X tier. So, hopefully you are feeling pretty good about what are the next steps that you need to take. So those are all great questions. And so what I would like to do here is to invite you all, if you have more questions, to schedule an executive strategy session. In those sessions, I basically can speak to your individual issues, what's going on, and it's a simple process. The X-tier process is simple. You can absolutely do it on your own. And if you want to have some clarity, I'm pretty good at doing that. And I can give you some understanding about what right actions you might want to engage in. And I know that I could probably give you some insight. So I've got about 20 years of experience in this industry with training and coaching. And in the event that we're not talking about your wellness, we can also talk about your relationships, parenting, or whatever is most important to you. And I could help you with a little bit of insight in terms of how to think about a new way of thinking. So with that, I would like to say thank you very, very much for your time and for your presence. And I absolutely am honored to be here with you all, and especially in this month of celebration. I have learned quite a bit about the Korean culture, and I am absolutely looking forward to learning more. And so with that, 감사합니다. 감사합니다. Thank you all very much. Take care.